Greetings! I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Book Report. These days, religions are in the news all the time, whether directly or indirectly. A lot of the craziness going on in the Middle East is all based on religion. A lot of people in the United States are formulating policy based on religious traditions, their interpretation of sacred texts, whether it be the Bible, the Quran, or anything else for that matter. It can cause a lot of problems when people read certain books and interpret them the way they want to. But the thing that most of these people don't do, whether they're in positions of power or whether they're just the average believers, they don't go into the background of where all this stuff came from. They just get the final version. They don't want to find out what the original ingredients are. They just want to go to the supermarket, pick it up, and leave and be done with it. Now, Islam gets an awful lot of, shall we say, ire these days of being something that's mostly fanatical, when traditionally it wasn't. It was, of course, spread through violence, but then again, Christianity was as well, which is an inconvenient truth. So instead of talking about Islam, we're going to talk about where Christianity came from. And we're going to deal with something that is called the forbidden faith, and that is Gnosticism. Yes, that's something that the Roman Catholic Church and other versions of it decided to eradicate, in some cases using Holocaust-like techniques. Not everybody is innocent in the God game in recent centuries. The book I'm talking about today is Forbidden Faith, The Secret History of Gnosticism by Mr. Richard Smoley, a rather prolific author. I haven't read any of his books except this one, and I found it quite good. A few things I think he left out, but it's such a big topic that can be excusable. Now, what is Gnosticism? Gnosticism comes from the Greek root word meaning knowledge. That's where we get that from. In other words, you don't go to priests, you don't go to bishops, you don't go to churches, you deal with the divine on your own. I've discussed this before. I did a review some time ago of the Gnostic Bible, but this is where the history of all of this stuff comes from. Christianity, as we see it today, is actually highly refined, all sorts of belief systems that came from the first century A.D., and came and went, and some were flourishing, some didn't. The ones that survived were the ones that had government sponsorship. Our version of Christianity, otherwise known as Pauline Christianity, named for Paul, who came up with the more or less the final version of it, well, he beat out a whole bunch of competitors for it. Gnosticism is a fascinating topic because it deals with mystical traditions, and you get a real insight into what the original teachings were all about. Now, we didn't really know too much about it. The Cathars, who were eradicated with extreme prejudice by the Roman Catholic Church back in the Middle Ages, well, they were close to it, but we really didn't get a taste of what was taught in the old days until 1945, when the Nag Hammadi Library was unearthed in Egypt. And when these ancient scrolls were translated, we got a good idea of where all this stuff came from. There were many traditions tied to Christianity, many of which have died out, of course, but it's a fascinating tale as to where all this came from. In many recent centuries, you could say that many of these religions have lost their divine spark. I mean, just taking a look at all the horrible things that are done in their name, especially these days, well, you kind of get that impression anyways. But still, to understand the Christian tradition, you do have to look at what it competed against to come out in its final form, and that was Gnosticism. There are Gnostic traditions these days, of course, but if you go into the history of it, you get to see about all the power battles and all the competition and all the good things they came up with and all the not-so-good things that they came up with and survived. Now, this is not an attack on the belief system. Most Christians out there, just like most Muslims, most Jews, most Buddhists, and most just about everybody are decent people. Most humans are pretty cool. But this goes into where Christianity actually came from and its evolutionary process. It's kind of like looking back to the history of the United States and studying where it came from. Our current state of the United States today and where it is came from all sorts of things that's happened over the last 200 years. The same thing with religious traditions. Mr. Smoley's book is very well put together. And in spite of some of the reviews, though, that say it's an easy read, it actually is quite thick. The book is only about 250 pages, but boy, does it pack a lot of information. It goes into the histories, it goes into all the different sects, it goes into all the different peoples, all the monastic traditions. It's a lot of stuff. In fact, he probably is only touching the surface. He could have easily made this book twice as big, but, well, if he did that, it probably wouldn't be read by too many people. It is approachable, but it's not an easy read. Like, it's not something you're going to want to bring to the beach and read while you're taking your time going in and taking a swim in the ocean. It is a bit of a thoughtful process to go through this book, but it's worth it, especially if you're of the Christian faith. It's important to understand the history of anything, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And it's important to understand where the good came from and where the bad came from. That way you can turn the bad into the good. What I do like about this book is it's cut into different sections in history. One of the more interesting ones is the part on Rosicrucianism, which is always misunderstood, and there's an awful lot more that's out there that is really more myth than reality. Again, it's more of a scientific look at this thing. It's not full of a bunch of mystical claptrap, although it's quite obvious that Mr. Smoley is a man with some faith and has a spiritual side to him. He's written many other books on mystical Christianity and esoteric Christianity. I have not read those books, but they're well reviewed and probably are worth a look at some point. This is a book you should read even if you're not a Christian, because it'll give you a perspective on where things are right now. It also pulls the rug out from those people that believe that if we have a nuclear war, Jesus is going to come back and be very happy about it. No, I don't think the faith has anything to do with that, nor did it ever. Again, the book is Forbidden Faith, The Secret History of Gnosticism by Richard Smoley. It's published by Harper One. It first came out in 2007. It's up on Kindle, which is worth having. It also has an excellent audiobook, which I listened to. It has a hardcover and a softcover. I'm going to be looking into this author in some detail because he does have quite a few books out there, and if you look at his background, he does have a lot of affiliations, which gives him a great deal of credibility and authority based on real education, something you don't see much in religion these days. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies, whether they're Christian or not. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, keep reading and never judge a book by its movie. Good day.